Home is a schedule you learn in your hands dotted anchor. Morning begins under rope. The rope house is a long room with posts set like commas and coils hung like punctuation. The bucket lamps glow under bent tin at knee height. Nobody needs to say, remember, because light does it without bragging. Mila the saw smile keeper of knots walks, the line and tugs prusix, until knots confess their shortcomings. Children stand on apple crates to reach the waistline and breathe to the metronome. 2 in through nose, 2 out through mouth. The room counts like weather. It holds like grammar. Juniper ties beside me with the economy of someone who has forgotten how to explain her competence because the rope explains it better. Bawling, munter, prusic, clove her hands conjugate verbs I know, but had never said in this dialect. When she's done, she taps the knot with a fingertip the way you pat a friend's shoulder, without making a show of it dot double points like day, Mila says. And it isn't. The river carries last night's wind like a rumor still trying to be true. Flags on the causeway stanchions angle in a way that spells surge to anyone who reads. But we say light, because mornings need the illusion. Rule 82. Choose your first word. Make it a small one you can keep, rope, breath. Soup before the big ones arrive, dot at the quiet house door we count. A reflex now. 2 in, 2 out. Salt water from a tin basin runs over our hands and bites all the paper cuts we've acquired on purpose. A boy with triangle knuckles watches to see if we flinch like a new person still pretending. We don't, or we do, and smile anyway. We walk the internal lanes that refuse grandeur. Shutters are closed to half, with slats painted dark to turn light into suggestion. The kitchen triangle 2 knocks, pause, 2 calls for hands to carry buckets, not mouths to carry news. A strand of shells clatters at the pier mouth. A kid ties them quiet. Wind reads too, Mila says. You have to write for it. I join Juniper at the river mouth stanchion, waist rope strung true between the posts. We run hands along line and fibrous truth, checking for wear, replacing the one section that had decided to become less honest overnight. I splice new core into old sheath while she looks past me at the tide board, ladder hash rising. 2 bars up by noon, she says. More if wind ignores polite requests. No engines, I say, because I want her to say the rest. No engines, she answers. We didn't buy this quiet to pawn it in a storm. She shows me the treadle pump they've built from the carcass of a sewing machine. Belts rerouted, pistons scavenged from a thing that once washed someone's clothes. It sits under a lean to near the lowest stanchion where overflow will knee us first. You'll hate it by the 5th minute, she says. And you'll love it long after engines are myths again. Rule 83. If a machine can be footed, foot it. Noise is debt. Sweat is currency. You mint yourself dot by mid-morning. The rope house empties into lanes. I'm on causeway watch with Mila. 2 smaller knots trailing behind to learn what the world looks like when you see it low. Breath count is the drum. Rope rugs answer questions mouths try to ask. The schedule enters our shoulders. That's what home feels like here. Reliable weight. Chapter 2. The first surge storms here are audible in wood. The posts at the causeway hum before the water shows the idea above their knees. We move before voices would make it cowardly. Stanchion ropes tighten to their weather. Setting waist, high at low tide, becomes thigh at surge. So a clip doesn't yank a person into air. Mila knocks the triangle. 2 short, 1 long. That means line up to lift, and the pier becomes hands. Juniper runs the flood kit. Wicker gabions we fill with rock and sandbags tied with clove hitches, so a gloved hand can undo them with grace when the river gives them back. I carry bags while a child named Soul, triangle chalk on both knuckles, counts packs in bundles of 4. Like breath, they intone. 2-2, and we mark the stacks with X slashes to keep a nervous mind from inventing extra. Rule 84. Count out loud in bad weather. Numbers are handrails for brains. Wind corrugates the water at the river mouth into something that remembers teeth. Tideboard climbs 2 lines in 20 minutes. Anchor does not become loud. It becomes specific. Bucket lamps under shutters blink sideways codes. 1 long, 2 short. Home. Then a single low blink that means faces, not flood. Our kids to inner lanes signal. We do not ring anything. The shells sing enough dotted surge, +1. The first wavelets break over the low cross planks at the mouth. We lay the first sacrificial mat brush and reed bundles, lashed into a carpet, into the flow to slow it and string it. The water eats it with delicate hunger. We give it another. The point isn't to stop water. Its strategic matters. I, as people from Gullspine, taught us the next trip. We weirs pegged with drift stakes at an angle that makes water lose arguments about speed. We drive the stakes with mallets cut from knotty rounds, the sound deep enough to be a secret instead of an announcement. Rule 85. Make the flood be a student. Give it things to read. It will learn to be less dangerous faster than it learns to be kind. A cart rolls up with the treadle pump. Juniper threads the intake under a board and yells clear, a half-voice teachable enough to not be a habit breaker. 2 of us step to the treadles. It feels instant. Muscles heated, lungs bargaining. We do 4 minutes per pair. Mila keeps time with her finger on her wrist. Nobody watches the river while they treadle. They watch Mila's hand and the belt that carries our refusal into water's mouth. Harrow sends. A rope messenger under tarp, through gusts, a knotted line clapped to a drift pole. With the message encoded, 3 shorts and a long. Twice our blocks, spillway gate open up river. We answer on the catwalk post with the bolt head. 2 short. 1 long, we're in place. At surge +3, the water asks for a real bite. It takes a corner of the brush mat and tries to make it an argument. We set the second line of reed under the first. The line holds. The bite becomes a lick. The pump crew changes again. Somebody laughs because the human body is ridiculous, and also the thing that keeps this from turning into old stories about lost dot by the time the board drops a line and a half. The storm has spent dignity and started to sulk. The pump slows. We pull the reed mat upstream and set it to dry like a dog. We drink water we paid for with legs and stay seated because nobody is allowed to fall after the river stops trying to persuade your stance. Rule 86. Don't stand to be proud when tired. Sit to be useful later. The no engines debate arrives quietly. A man from a house near the bend says he has a 2-stroke in a shed, would have made quick work of the mouth, could have saved every tendon here. Mila nods as if you are right, and then points out the downriver shoal where a choir cousin perched 3 storms back when motors sang like Christmas. We all saw the shape in the fog. We all remember the room that almost turned into a fight. Juniper says it without apology. We paid noise off, she says. We stay solvent. The man shrugs the shrug of someone who owes fewer explanations to his own chest than he did a year ago. He picks up a sandbag and doesn't slam it. That's how you know we'll be all right. Chapter 3. Exchange day the day after surge. We run the long list that makes a community feel like a tool rack. Dry rope, rehang lamps. Rewrite chalk. Field posts. Calibrate the tide board with the stick and the memory of last flood. Rotate saws by the stove. Check the stovepipe for sins. Replace the Prusik cords that glazed under the urgency we pretended not to have. Harrow's cousins arrive with quiet the way they bring rope. Sturdy, skill you can cut with. 2 short, 1 long on the post, answered with 1 long, 1 short from the bucket under the shutter. Not now, because the kitchen triangle had just called. Soup, and no one interrupts a child's lunch for Trade. We meet on the drift under awning and lay the table with verbs. We bring mend and splice and teach. They bring patch and lasher and listen. After we trade those, we put down nouns. Anchor offers brine, dried greens, 3 bags of knot practice rope with eyes burned into the ends. Harrow offers sailcloth marked with rope grammar. A pulley block with a bearing as smooth as a decision. 12 brass pins with the 3 holes punched exactly. Rule 87. Verbs first, nouns second, stories last. If a trade starts with stories, it's already a problem. Union's representative arrives under rope and bucket one person. Gear on back, hammer on the belt, a lantern plate on a string under a coat. They stand at the edge of the longhouse shadow until breath is counted and code is thrown twice. Then they step all the way in and say the thing that matters. Blink discipline confirmed at Glass Point. Your paperclip still working. We fix their shutter lanyard with a bowline and an extra half hitch because the glass is still rude about wind on that corner. We pass on a new schedule to 1-2-1 at half after, cut at the hour on flood days to keep the fog from writing headlines about us. They take it like a grocery list, alive with importance and also ordinary, the conversation we don't put in air. A second attempt by Black Hook to paint the Union. Code on a different lens, not with discipline, but with bravado. Harrow shrugs like a teacher watching a student turn in someone else's homework. We're keeping our breath on rope, they say. We'll wave at air after spring. Children run knots between posts, solemn and chaotic, while the adults make rope talk. It's an exchange. It looks like markets did. It smells like soup and brine, and the serious scuff of boots on wood. I realize I have not thought about cities in 30 days. It feels like leaving a habit you thought was your personality. Rule 88. Teach your rules when people aren't scared. They'll live longer inside your sentences. That evening, the longhouse becomes a classroom. Mila writes knocks on sailcloth, Harrow plus Union plus anchor, and I add the low drum of breath under. 2-2. Juniper shows the treadle pump and lets the Union hammer wear its belt while they try. We laugh at the gracelessness of first pedals and don't mock the stumble. The lantern under bucket blinks sideways from the corner and makes the room Holy Dot Chapter 4. The breach that wasn't teeth. Not everything that breaches wants you. Some breaches just happen because water keeps its appointments even when you changed yours. 3 days after surge, the dune where the inner lane meets pier decides to learn humility the way we did hard. Overnight, a wind shift cuts a notch into the sand and makes a new mouth inside the mouth. On slack, it's a pretty thing. A small stream shaped like a question mark. On flood, it's a board pulled at the wrong time. We call it breach, though. We don't mean panic dot the circle meets without speeches. Mila draws the cut in dust with a stick. The kitchen knocks soup, and we slurp while decisions happen. Juniper lays out 3 choices. Wall, which is another word for later trouble. Let, which is what the river wants, but we don't. Or borrow old words for sacrificial. Let this one be the one that takes it, so the one behind the rope doesn't. Aya taught us what to call it. We nod like people who have both read the book and feel like they wrote it. Engines? The man with the 2-stroke asks, practicing civility. 1 hour, and we could pull sand till it behaves. He does not sound wrong. He also does not sound like he's the person who will listen for echoes. Mila points at the shortest path as if it is long. Noise travels down the river like a rope you don't want thrown. She says softly, "You know who knocks on ropes they can't see. We can't feed that. We can feed the river this. A wrapped mat and a planned failure. Rule 89. Plan your failure. Don't let it plan you. A good breach is a bruise, not a wound. We all read and brush in bundles, lay them in the notch like ribs. Tie cross pieces with an overhand fisherman, because it closes under insult and opens after. We build the first part to go and the second to resist. We dig a shallow shoulder upstream because water loves the obvious. We stake it with posts that will hold until the moment they should not. A man from the roof crew runs up with something like joy and shame. Small portable pump he stole from a memory and kept quiet under baskets. He found a hose. It will work. He swears he never runs it. He begs to try. We look at him the way we'd look at a dog stealing bread-loving and refusing to pretend. Juniper walks into the stanchion rope and presses his hand to it. Pull, she says. He pulls. The rope tells him something the pump never could. He nods and sets the pump down the way you put a picture face down on a table for later and makes himself part of the carry for Reed instead. We lash. We swear with decency. We cut our own laces carefully when they threaten to become prisons. We stand the warps and wefts of Reed up like a weir, a grandmother with respect. We put the treadle pump on standby because we believe in leg engines more than the ones that take sound and won't get light. To Rule 90. You have to say, just this once. You're rehearsing your surrender. At flood +1, the river mouths our mat. It takes it like a polite meal, then hits the notch behind it with less anger because we made it a place to learn. At +2, a corner gives exactly as planned, and the little stream runs where we told it to, not where it wanted to practice. At +3, it wants to take our reed mantle and finds it heavier than anticipated. It argues. It leaves us the low board at the mouth alone. We made a friend. We'll pay for its loyalty later in rush and sweat, and in not scolding the children for walking where don't used to be. The 2, stroke man stands with the rest of us and claps once, then stops because applause is noise and we don't do celebration at the water's face, just inventory and warmth and tea. Rule 91. Warmth after weather is not winning. It's maintenance. Drink it like a promise to be useful again tomorrow. Chapter 5. Pure quiet war trade isn't barter when you live like this. It's choreography. 3 days a week in the afternoon in a wind that doesn't carry voices. Today the river chooses to be generous, and so do we. We hang a red cloth on the cracked culvert 2 knots for trade welcome. We hang a gray one beside it with 1 knot for no engines. A motor canoe ghosts along the far shore anyway. Engine idling so low it thinks it's being clever. We don't point. We don't look as a group. We just refuse to live as audience. The canoe drifts to the willow bend, and somebody knocks 1 short on wood, like a bad translation of rope language. Mila goes with 2 others to the bend, bucket lamp in hand under tin. She blinks 1, 2, 1. The canoe tries to blink back with a phone screen and a bag, a late imitation that at least says they know what kind of church we are. Mila knocks 2 short, 1 low on the post. Friend, if you can behave. The canoe's engine coughs an apology. Mila doesn't raise her voice. She raises her rope. The men in the boat look at each other like boys at the back of a class caught by someone they misjudged. The passenger shuts the engine down. The boat drifts. We do business. Rule 92. Don't argue terms. Demonstrate them. Discipline is a dialect. He has salt, decent. We have rope we can spare. He wants light. We show him a path lamp stripped to a cell and panel, and tell him he can trade for the recipe, not the unit. He thinks we're withholding. We're sharing the thing that matters, the way to not owe strangers for maintenance. He makes the face people make when they've never had to be part of a system that doesn't include them as the main character. They ask for home, like a rough draft. Mila doesn't say no. She says quiet house, which is the same thing but has work in it. They choose not to hear, and row away with an oar after deciding that using the engine would make them look like the wrong kind of hungry. We get visitors like that more. No, good. It means the air is carrying the right rumors. We meet them with our lowest light and our most repeatable sentences. We teach less than people think they came for and more than they ever wanted. Rule 93. Keep your welcome boring. Boring is repeatable. Repeatable is safe. Late day. Harrow blinks from the point 212. Long cause 1. A friend in fog. We rack the bucket lamps and set the blinks. The fog chooses to ignore us, and we ignore its feelings. The friend finds the bend. A rope knocks. We don't turn it into celebration. We turn it into tea and breath count, and a seat with a stove hits your back just right. Chapter 6. Home. Not Fortress Ace fails its own idea when it becomes only a no. We say home, not safe as a policy. It's on the sailcloth, next to rope grammar, underlined with grease pencil that we touch up after damp days. The circle meets in the longhouse without ceremony. Children are there with their triangle knuckles. They listen pretending not to, and that keeps us from lying for convenience. Decisions knock themselves into place. A family appears at the causeway with 2 adults. A teenager with a rope burn that says, "Once learned, forgot, once another go." A small body asleep across a shoulder. They negotiate the stanchion like they've seen it in a drawing. Breath count at the post. 2-2. Good. We wash hands with brine. We hold their eyes where the door is a mouth. Mila sets the rules: no engines, no lights above knee, no air for plans, rope at the causeway, stories later. They nod too fast, then slower, then truly. One of our own says the thing you're not supposed to say, but it's good that someone says it aloud. We can't keep everyone. We can, Juniper says. Keep being the kind of place that teaches its sentences. If their breath can count, we'll spend our rope teaching their hands. She is not being kind. She is being precise. Rule 94. Don't defend your wall. Defend your language. Let people in who can learn your verbs. We give the family quiet house for a day. We walk them through rope under supervision, which looks like kindness and is actually risk management. The teenager stumbles and learns twice. He blushes like he's relieved to be told the right way to fail. The smaller body sleeps through most of the morning and then wakes to point at the bucket lamp. Glee like music but quiet. We draft the door hour, time each day when the triangle knocks the pattern for present yourselves. You come with hands visible, belts empty, breath ready. If you have engines, you leave them with the tide. If you have stories, you leave them inside your mouth until soup is gone. If you have work, you carry it in your hands. Rule 95. Make a door for each day. Little doors prevent big breaking. The argument for fortress shows up at dusk. Cal's cousin from the ridge, Wren's quiet movement, but without Wren's quiet tone. He stands where Rope can see him and says he wants rules and salt and a piece of the map. He gets 2 out of 3 because that's how adults are made. We mark the outer stanchions with children's chalk triangles, and the second dot appears under the first. Soul explains, 1 dot is us. The other is guest. Both dots are inside the triangle, or they don't get to be dots. We leave the chalk there. It's a better policy sign than anything we would have written. Rule 96. When children improve your rules, don't sand off their handwriting. That night, the river is a cat. It forgets to claw. The bucket lamps under shutters have their blink trimmed to the smallest flicker that still means awake. Rope is coiled where hands fall to it without theatrics. The quiet house breathes with strangers who are less strange already. The longhouse knows our names now, written in grease pencil that smudges when warm and rewrites easily. The pier smells like brine and caution. I lay my palm on the beam again, because rituals keep what weather tries to take. Juniper leans on the post like she always has. Mila laughs at a knot that pretended to be a bowline and was a pretzel instead. Somewhere beyond the dune, Harrow blinks 2-1-2, and the Union's 1-2-1 cuts at the hour, like a promise kept in small. We do not feel safe. We feel right. That's the word I wanted and didn't have until now. **** spring doesn't knock. It removes doors. The first hint was sound, not water the dull, barrel thump of heavy wood, arguing just upriver, followed by a breath the river took with its mouth open. The tideboard climbed a half line in one gulp. The reed mat we'd laid in winter our planned bruise -humad.Mila didn't look up when the thump came. She looked left at the brush cache. "Lift," she said, and half the pier turned into arms. Juniper ran the treadle pump, out from under its tarp, without waking its pride. Aya's cousins from Gull Spine were already pulling fascines, brush bundles, off the rack. Wrists doing the math about the river brought us a gift we didn't want yet, a whole telephone pole with crusted muscle, and a story from upriver written in dents. It hit our sacrificial breach at an angle, took its measure, and pushed Dot. We thanked our past selves for deciding to fail there and nowhere else. The reed laced itself up like it had expected insult. But spring is petty. The pole worked a little. The notch took a little. Water learned a new chord. Second give, Juniper said. Breath counted, voice small, exact. We had pre-cut the next willingness into the dune 2 spades deep. A polite suggestion to water where to go if it insisted. We pulled the topmost brush and let it. Rule 97. Design your defenses to fail where you tell them to. Graceful failure is a kind of strength. We rigged a come-along 2 pulleys and a prayer. From the stanchion to a drift anchor, 3 timbers bolted into a triangle and buried in sand. The river sang about leverage. We sang back with rope. The pole tried to push farther into our mouth. The come-along pulled it sideways into the little stream we preferred. It dragged across brush and eelgrass, scraped, caught, shifted again. A spray of cold kisses, a grunt from 3 people leaning into work they'd chosen. And the pole surrendered to the notch that wasn't invited to dinner, but was allowed a seat. At surge +2. The blowout tried the second corner. We were ready with brush mattresses tied on shore, 4 lines to a bundle, so we could steer them like boats. "Don't stand on what you hope will hold," Mila said. That tone she gets when she's borrowing good words from a bad day. We slid the mattress in from the side, set it, pegged it with stakes that will rot at the right time. We tightened the come, along another notch, and listened for the sound of rope that means stop. We stopped. Rule 98. Tie off to land, not to hope. If your anchor isn't buried or bolted, it's a rumor. The treadle pump found its job. Pairs rotated at 4 minutes. 5 if you were 30 and made of spring. 3 if you were 70 and made of will. No engines. A boy with chalk triangles tapped time with 2 fingers on his wrist, 2 in, 2 out our metronome. The legs wanted their own religion. Upstream, a gull stood on one leg and looked skeptical. The pole we didn't want slid past, dragged into our planned failure. The river took the hint. Surge Crest shaved a line off the tideboard and lost interest in making an example. We sat. We didn't stand proud. We didn't clap. We drank warmth like maintenance. Rule 99. When rope's been tight, go limp on purpose before you do anything clever. Snapback is physics with teeth. We rewrote the little map in dust. Our breach now 2 notches deep. Our reed mattress pattern improved by accident. We left the second come-along in place with the handle tied down, so nobody could get optimistic at night. Spring had arrived. It had opinions. We had rules that could bend and remember. Chapter 8. Rope school accidents are teachers that don't ask permission to speak. Rope school runs under bucket light. Practice posts set chest high. A waistline strung along, Knots like toys turn serious. We run kids through the verbs. Clip, step, slide, stop. We run them on dry wood, then on wet, then on sand. We use red-sheathed rope for practice, so eyes do not confuse language. Sol triangle knuckles. Breath that counts itself without applause was showing two littles how Prusiks bite. A drizzle made the practice rail honest. A Prusik loop we should have retired glazed from winter drills. It bit late, then not. A small body slid faster than pride likes. Two things saved the day. First, a backup line again had insisted on chest-high belly rope, slack enough not to tangle, tight enough to catch principle, not panic. Second, Sol's voice. Hands. The code word we chose for freeze. 5 kids went still. A small body stopped 1 foot from falling off nothing because the chest line answered. We hauled the little back. Sol cried in the quiet way good teachers do anger at the tool, not at the hands. Mila held up the tired Prusik loop for the room to see. Retire at glaze, not at failure, she said. Her voice had no sharp on it. She cut the loop and put it in the fidgets basket so little hands could worry it while adults talked to get ready. Rule 100. Backups are not insults. Clip new learners twice waist and chest. Retire training gear by schedule, not story. We rewrote rope school on the spot without drama. Practice only on the red line, never the live stanchion. Prusik loops in kid class. Changed weekly. Color-coded tags clipped to show age-adult ratio. No more than 3 children per trained adult on wet wood. Hands becomes the freeze for rope school. Hold stays the freeze for the water line. 1 is a soft word. The other lives in the chest. We added chalk to the posts where small eyes can read. Red dot equals practice. Green dot equals adult. Only blue dot equals breath break zone. We told stories later. We fixed rope now. Sol's hands stopped shaking after 2 breaths and a second job. We let them teach the next knot, because competence returns when you hand it another sentence to speak. Chapter 9. Festival under bucket light. We don't have saints, but we keep calendars. After winter's last disdain and spring's first injury, Anchor gives itself a festival no one asked permission to invent. We call it Knee Light Night. Lanterns under buckets line the lanes. Blink small and sideways in patterns kids choreograph. Never above knee, never toward water. Triangles with dots bloom in chalk at the bottoms of posts. The longhouse spills stew and bread across planks. Brine and dill, and something that tastes like forgiveness. Exchange day rules are suspended in favor of thank you rules. Verb trades only. You bring a skill to the table and use it until someone else takes your spot, and you eat. Music under rope is a knock language. Too short on a post, a reply from a bucket, a laugh that doesn't get jealous of silence. We have songs you can teach with fingers. Prusik, bowline, munter, half-hitch tie. We keep it quiet enough to count breath over. Dead tells one story once the soup is half gone. The harrow tale of the bucket lamp in fog that saved a boat crew who had learned to blink with buckets instead of lighthouses. It sounds like a miracle if you don't know work. It sounds like work if you do. I tell one story about the child's shoe on the truck roof, set there by a hand we will never meet. It silences us for a breath. Then we eat again. Rule 101. Celebrate maintenance, not miracles. Make your festival teach the thing you'll need tomorrow. We set up a tiny museum. Greasy sailcloth with rope grammar. A tide board with the story of the storm, weighed in pencil lines. A broken Prusik loop in a jar labeled retire at glaze, not failure. Children lead adults, past it like docents. We keep our primaries small. We keep our bragging smaller. On the pier, a lantern with shutter beams, 1, 2, 1 at the hour, and cuts like a person keeping a promise it's fun to keep. Harrow sends 212 once, like a cousin flicking the porch light and turning it off before moths get ideas. Union blinks at half past, a dot on our horizon, discipline visible, and therefore a comfort. Nobody dances big. We all find the chore we like best and do it next to someone we suspect we'll learn a trick from. It looks like worship done right. Chapter 10. The call from upriver. The rule is no air for plans. Emergencies bend rules the way the breach bent sand. In the place we decided first. Late morning. The repeater coughed up a voice with breath and grammar both. Stillwater Maze Bend, this is flood release. Logjam break beyond intakes blown. Surge +4 in 9 hours. Convoy 60 mixed skills engines at Bend, trying to decide. Request rope language in a box. Mark would have loved to say that last sentence. The air made a sound that wasn't a recording. Harrow's messenger ran a line down the lane. 3 short, 1 long, twice our emergency pull. Union knocked 1, 2-1 cut earliest signature. We had decided meant listen now. Mila broke the seal on the 5 sentences we allowed air in the season. We wrote them with chalk first, said them aloud twice. Then someone spoke them into the radio with breath between the pauses. Engines off beyond cracked culvert. Clip at stanchion rope. Knee-high lamps will guide. 2 in, 2 out at door. Wash hands. Knives peace-bound. Door hour extended. You will be bored and safe. No air for plans after this. Blink and knock only. Rule 102. In emergency, shorten sentences, not standards. Keep the no. Tighten the yes into handholds. People can grab. We hung sailcloth rope grammar at the inner lane. Crucic diagram. Bowline picture. A hand open. A rope icon. The triangle of the quiet house drawn low. Kids chalked arrows knee-high. Adults walked with buckets. We set a practice ring at the first fence post. 2 knots and a breath count under supervision earns you the clip for the real line. We doubled the door hour into a door band 2 hours. Then a pause, then 2. Nobody wants lines long enough to begin opinions. The kitchen fed broth and stilled voices. The longhouse turned into a registration of verbs. Lift, carry, mend, listen. Engines arrived at the bend and played coy. Just to charge, said one man with an arm tan that came from before. We offered him a treadle and a smile like an anchor. He took the treadle. In an hour, he looked younger and less certain he'd ever been right. Rule 103. Publish your doors. Keep your rooms closed. Let people in on your schedule. Teach them how to move without knocking holes in your walls. By late day. The first of the convoy came under bucket light. Hands visible. Breath in 2s. Knives tied down with red thread. Half of them looked like talent that had been waiting for permission. A quarter looked like trouble, wearing good shoes it intended to spout. A quarter looked too tired for nouns. We loved all of them exactly the amount useful demanded. We set a knock schedule. 2 short. 1 long for friend. 1 long. 1 short for not now. Thrown on the ground outside the quiet house when its quarters were over full. We wrote it low on sailcloth with pictures of palms and rope. A woman frowned at the lack of speeches and then stopped frowning when Soup insisted on a spoon. The surge came after dusk, another polite attempt at remembering to be bigger than us. We let it decide to be less exciting. It did, because we had 10 extra hands on the treadle, and none on the start chord of a 2-stroke dot chapter. 11. Teaching the language fast, we learn languages slow. Emergencies want speed. We compromised by making rope grammar a game children could teach. Soul ran the ring. Like a foreman, small hands correcting big ones with an authority that made me want to write a constitution. Bowline rabbit out, around in. Prusik rap 3, dress, slide. They tapped knuckles with chalk and drew a Tiny triangle with 2 dots on hands that learned, and kept 1 dot off when hands that argued. Instead of learning wanted credit dot, we turned our 6 rules into cards with pictures. Hands visible, open palm icon, rope at waist, belt with clip, breath in 2s, 2 arrows in. 2 out, knees light only, bucket under beam. An X over a lantern being held high. No engines, a small engine with a line through it. A bicycle crank drawn beside. Quiet house first, a triangle with a dot inside. A bucket lamp beside its door. We discovered who could learn fast in 5 minutes and who needed to be bored, safe for a night before being given rope. We built a waiting room out of rope and warmth. Nobody died of boredom. A man shouted, "Back home, we," and Mila's hand tapped the hand's post. He stopped without resentment. He held up his palms. He exhaled in 2s. "Here," he said, "we." Friction caught where you might expect. A trio with a generator head mounted on a cart wanted permission to run once at dusk to keep medicine cold. We opened the longhouse and showed them the root cellar and the ice house. We kept by law. That is what rules become. And the brine and the mirror get polished by sawman. Tells you cold truth without needing a motor. They didn't applaud. They turned the crank. The medicine humbled itself and stayed cold in baskets and science and neighbor obligation. Rule 104. Write changes where hands touch on posts, on ropes, on bucket lids. Don't rely on mouths to carry new rules. We added one quickly, the Prusik retire schedule, to the quiet house wall. We added marks to the stanchion jacket's Sharpie. Dots at hand level where breath drills happen so you don't throw rope talk into water. We put a line of sailcloth a child. Height with pictures of don't run on wet boards. And only knock what you mean. We let kids teach. Harrow blinked 212 from the point like a heartbeat with a cousin's rhythm. Union cut at the hour. The air went back to being weather. The rooms went on being rooms. Chapter 12. After surge, new rule the river returned to polite. The tideboard exhaled. The long door closed to a narrow door. The quiet house slept less crowded and snored like good work. We wrote what changed on the sailcloth, and on our beam, and on our tongues. Red rope only for practice. No practice on the live line. Prusik loops for kids, changed weekly. Adults, monthly. In rain, yesterday, hands is freeze for school. Hold is freeze for water. Door band exists. 2 hours, pause. 2 published with chalk low where knees read. Emergency air 5 sentences, renewed at spring and fall. You burn 1, you mark it. Rule 105. Keep count of your exceptions. If you don't, they become your rules. We sat in the longhouse with tea we didn't need flavor for. Juniper put her hand over mine and pressed bones to wood to make us both feel that post again. Mila laughed at someone's nut and pretended to be clever and was just inappropriate. Aya sent a rope message from the spine that said your planned bruise is beautiful, which is how you compliment a breech dot at dusk. A bucket lamp blinked knee-high outside the quiet house. 1 short, 2 long river cousins hello. The door opened. A small figure slid inside, chalk triangle already on knuckles. They looked at our rope, our lamps, our breath, our rules, and did something I will always trust over speeches. They imitated the count and waited for it to be counted back, answered with 2 and 2, and felt the room learn a new person. Anchor isn't safe. It's correct. It's a place where we can put the next dot inside the triangle and know it stands for someone we decided to keep. A place becomes bigger than itself when it names the work it owes neighbors. We met in the longhouse with the doors set to mouth and bucket lamps blinking low 121 at the hour. Cut true. Harrow sent Aya and a keeper with a rope burn at their wrist that matched my new one. Union sent Imani cap low, shutter lanyard coiled like a pet. Anchor brought Milla Juniper and 3 of us, who knew how to keep our mouths from outrunning our shoulders. We laid verbs on the table first. Blink, knock, count, mend, teach. Then nouns, carefully. Lanyard line, brass pins, sailcloth charts, weed, pulley blocks. We didn't bring titles. We brought maintenance. Imani unrolled a lantern ledger. Sailcloth grid with weeks stitched on it, and the corners weighted by fish weights. We log blink discipline, she said. Who's lit, who's silent, who's cutting at the hour. We don't use ink for shame. We use it for repair. Aya slid a rope spindle across the table with 3 knots in different colors. We standardize retire, she said. Red Prusik 1 week, blue a month, green only on the live line, never child hands. Add tags. Keep your laziness out of your schedule. Mila added breath. 2-2 at the door everywhere. We don't argue culture. We share oxygen. Rule 106. A pact is verbs and maintenance, not leaders. Make schedules, not speeches. Write promises where hands touch them not. We made a ledger of exchanges that didn't smell like death. Harrow would bring reed mats when surge season stalked. Anchor would bring rope school upriver after the first blowouts. Union would verify blink discipline and keep the radio sentences brief and numbered 5 per season. Not for plans, only for floods and fire. We carved a mark low at the longhouse beam, a square with an X, Harrow. A lantern plate scratch, Union. A tiny triangle with a dot, Anchor. Beneath, we wrote, rope plus light plus breath. We didn't make a banner. We made a pelmet low enough for children to touch and smudge. Imani left a tiny coil of bright line on our table, the new lanyard for glass. Point stubborn lee shutter. Aya left a short chisel with a story polished into its handle. The pact felt like tools put away correctly. Rule 107. When you leave a meeting, take less than you brought and fix something before breakfast. Paper doesn't hold water. Rope does. Chapter 14. The inlet that lost its pier. The call came soft Harrow, blink 212. Then 1 short from a bucket under a tarp. A messenger line with knots we hadn't codified yet because Payne invents languages fast. Moth inlet pier, gone no teeth, only weather. Help. We ran the dune path with rope and reed bundles, not engine. No engines doesn't mean no speed. It means you move earlier and arrive functional. The sky wore a color that told the gulls to stand on one leg and consider philosophy. We moved rope like thought. Moth Inlet had been modest on purpose planks. Posts, a longhouse that leaned on the wind like an old friend. The last storm had eaten 1 corner of their pier with the boredom of a thing that had done it before. No blood, no teeth. Just a new hole where a habit had been. We didn't mourn a structure. We triaged function. Juniper grew with the stick eddies, lines of force, where the old posts had made water think and where the new ones would have to teach again. Aya's cousin showed us the signature of rot in the broken pier, a black line hidden from easy eyes. They loved it neat, she said. It needed to be messy in the right places. The sea likes hair in its drain. We lashed a temporary fishbone. 2 long header beams salvaged from the longhouse eaves. Ribs lashed across with half-hitches dressed clean. Brush mattress laced under to teach water friction. A come-along rigged landward bought us inches against push. We set a temporary landing lower than pride liked and higher than grief wanted, tied down with knots too stubborn for vanity. Rule 108. You don't rebuild what failed you. You build the thing your failure taught you to want. The inlet's elder walked the fishbone with bare feet and learned its new language. We walked behind with the treadle pump because the habit travels. 3 anchor legs, 3 inlet legs, 4 harrow. No engine. Bucket lamps under buckets blinked sideways codes. The sea pretended it was bored with our work and went to borrow a mood elsewhere. On the way out, a man who had loved the old pier too much for its neat lines lifted the motor cover on a skiff as if his grief could excuse acoustics. He showed us a can of gas like a holy relic kept under a bed. "Just to haul the injured," he said, and the injured were planks. Mila put her hand on the skiff's gunwale and said the thing that sounded cruel and was kindness. "We're not hurt," she said. "We're interrupted." She showed him the treadle pump and how it turned winded adults into something better than noise. He put the can back. He didn't tell us his father had taught him to revere engines. He didn't need to. He picked up a bundle of reed and didn't ask permission to learn a better faith. Rule 109. Don't let grief choose your tools. Make ritual, not exceptions. Chapter 15 Engines, and the Walk Death came honest to anchor that week. Tris's the old cold woman we'd coaxed back to polite went out under stars, not storms. The argument that always waits at the edge of rules came with her last breath. Engines for funerals? Make exception for love? We brought it to the longhouse, where grief is seated with tea and triangles on knuckles. The man with the 2-stroke set the can onto the floor like a petition and said nothing. That was important. No sales pitch on sorrow. Mela squared rope on a post, a habit when thinking. "Noise is not respect," she said. "Distance is. Weight is." Aya nodded. "Feet are." Juniper held my hand under the table with fingers that smelled like reed. "We make a wake walk," she said. "Knee-like path from quiet house to high ground. Shells tied with brine, so they hush. Rope at waist. No engines. 2 breath count all the way." She tapped the weight of the plan into the wood. Rule 110. Let grief create rituals, not precedents. If sorrow asks for a breach, give it a path instead. But we draped the lane with buckets, blinking 1, 2, 1 every 10 steps. Small pulses of courtesy, the night accepted. Children chalked triangles with 2 dots, the second dot taller for the person going first this time. We walked Tris's under rope, hands visible, breath counted, feet rhythmic. The tide made its usual noise and did not file a complaint. At the rise, we set the circle tight. Not wide wine makes wide into theater. We said names and verbs, carried, warmed, laughed, mended, and kept before in a jar for later. The man with the can carried the can and didn't open it. He poured it into a lantern under a bucket in a little private ritual that smelled like letting go of a tool he'd been born loving. We didn't clap. We touched the post. Rule 111. Memorials should teach. Tie a knot. Pour a can into light, not noise. Leave a mark where hands need it tomorrow, not after. We made soup at the quiet house instead of in public. We put the extra bread on a shelf near the door where hunger would find it without having to beg with volume. The triangle knocked for work, not stories. And grief liked that, because grief prefers to be alone later with decent instructions. Chapter 16. Ours must travel a. Packed is a route with promises hung at the turns. Imani wrote. Lantern down 2 days at river by. Shutter line snapped. Keeper brained by a beam. Help. Aya added a rope. 2-1-2. A hesitation knot that meant hard carry. Stillwater, Maze Bend, scratched on a drift plank. Logjam release planned. Help teach quiet doors. The river loaned us a telephone pole in the blowout. We stabilized our breach with it. It felt like theft we hadn't admitted. We cut it into lengths we could carry back as apology. Juniper said I stay, with the authority of someone who would wrench my bag from me if I argued. Mila scowled and agreed. You move good with Den. she said. Then packed grammar in a box, a sailcloth roll with knot pictures and doorband drawings, bucket lids, pins, Prusik loops in new red. Harrow sent Sullen, a keeper with arms like twine turned into vows. Union sent a runner named Rick's thin, fast, eyes that cut recordings into confetti before they reached their ears. We went light and heavy light on food, heavy on rules. Rope, pins, bucket lids, sailcloth, reed knives, 2 come-alongs. A wrinkled blueprint in grease pencil of doorband and quiet house, and ring, rolled small and tied to my belt. Rule 112. Carry your language, not your authority. Bring what people can keep without you. We walked the river path reversed, the posts we had read from sea to mouth now talking back. At Stillwater, Mays Bend took our bucket lids like they were brass coins. We took their ferry rope repair tricks and paid with doorband and hands visible on sailcloth. At Glass Point, Imani's shutter lay on a bench. We spliced the lanyard line. Whole end dressed tight, no stop. Added a second tie so a storm would have to argue with both of us. The keeper boy blinked 121 and cut the hour and didn't cry till it was safe. Upstream, the ridge folk watched our bucket lids and rope, grammar with an expression that began as fear and became the version of love meant permit in public, covenants. Wren met us at a culvert by accident, a smile under a hat. We didn't talk about Cal. We exchanged grammar. Your 2-2 breath is saving me arguments, she said. You can't lie when you're counting. We hauled 3 cut pole lengths to a bend where the river had stolen a bank it kept refusing to own. We lashed them in, triangle frames pegged and rope to root. We didn't pretend to restore anything. We confessed a debt. A man at the bend nodded and said nothing because good work uses up words. Rule 113. Return what the river loaned, even if it didn't send the bill. Set repayment at turns where people forget to be kind. On the way back, we walked through Black Hook at noon with nothing to sell. Their light blinked wrong even in daylight. Rick smiled almost, set our bucket lamp under a tin at knee height against their wall, and blinked one once. A child saw it and copied it with a palm shaded against sand. That was all we could afford and all we should do. We left. Carrying 2 new verbs upriver had offered, listen to reeds. They show which way the flood will cheat, and retire flags. Cloth flaps that tangle rope become practice only the minute they fray. My straps felt like a ledger. Chapter 1-7 rope across a gay pond the last mile home. The bridge that had bitten us before decided to remind us we were still mortal. Not teeth rust that shrugged 1 more grid panel into the river and made the walkway narrower than polite. The Prusik line caught Sullen's harness when a flange tore. She went down to the thigh and breathed like a teacher. 2 in, 2 out. Then through the line, not at Sullen's hands, but ahead of her into the arc she would take if panic won. Panic lost. We hauled slow. The rope burned correctly. Rick set a highline throw bag over a remaining I-beam, a munter mule to hold the lift, a soft ground anchor made of 3 staked timbers in the triangle I keep dreaming about. We rigged pulleys and sent packs across with dignity and not brace. That's a win. I crawled across the beam thinking about how ours is a plural that can trip and still be ours dot at the far side. We relaced boots with cord that had been meant for sailcloth. I tied overhand knots in the ends not as decoration, but to keep future. Rories from pulling laces through eyelets at the wrong second. Small maintenance. Rule 114. Tie overhand knots in the ends of new things. It reminds tools they have endings. It keeps you from pulling the world out of itself by accident. We could see the bucket lamps under shutters, blinking home's knee light sideways before anything else. Harrow answered from the point with 212. Union cut at the hour. The air, for once, didn't try to steal the scene. Chapter 18. Ledger of Presences. I put my palm on the longhouse. Bean again, habit and contract. The triangle with the dot had 2 dots now, drawn by soul. One for us, one for guest. A third smudge waited for tomorrow. It was not a promise of safety. It was a habit of inclusion that felt like work. We added the pack to the sailcloth, as if it needed writing, and to the ledger. We keep in a drawer made from a school desk that still has a gum graveyard under it. Who blinked, who cut, who taught, who learned, who retired what at glaze, not failure. It looked like an atlas, but not of absences. An atlas of presences. Rope routes, bucket lights, breath counts, door bands. A map of a small world that keeps showing up for itself. Juniper leaned her weight on me in the easy, practical way rope people show affection. Mila tugged a prusik and declared it worth tomorrow. Aya sent a rope knock from the .212, and children counted their breath louder than the wind, which is the only volume I like. I thought about the start, an atlas that named what wasn't there. Absences were the first map we had. We walked into them and rode over them with low light and knots and a rule about breath. I'm not naive. Water will keep coming. Wind will keep telling the dunes it owns them. Men with engines will keep appearing with grief and with temptations. But we are solvent. We paid noise off and made payments in rope. Rule 115. Keep the rules. Small enough to hold in your hands and long enough to reach your neighbors. Breathe in twos. Knock what you mean. Blink narrow. Cut at the hour. Retire at glaze, not failure. Mark low. Present yourself. We are not finished, and that is the point. We built a door hour large enough to let strangers practice being us. We built a quiet house that makes boredom a skill. We made a work pact that says our language is more valuable than any one peer. We walk causeways with laces that know when to surrender and prusiks that know when to grip. We teach children how to freeze when small and how to move when big. The boy with the chalk drew a triangle on his knuckle and didn't wait for me to mirror it. He counted 2 in, 2 out, and waited to be counted back. I did. We are here because we can count. We will be here because we will keep counting. I set the recorder down on the beam and let the red light glow like a bucket lamp under a chair. If you can hear this, then air is still honest enough to carry a breath, and we haven't wasted our 5 sentences this season. No engines. No lights above the knee. Rope, light, breath, home not safe. Correct, ours.